What's up, functional bodybuilders? I am going to be diving into a series called Functional Muscle. Today is part one. We're going to be hitting a leg day with functional bodybuilding, formatting, concepts, training methods. And what I'm going to be using today is something I like to call, and many other people call, compounding sets. That's when you take 3 or more movements and you perform them back to back, and each of them targets a similar movement pattern or group of muscles. These names are interchangeable: compounding sets, giant sets. We use this approach in functional bodybuilding because it allows us to leverage a few very powerful training principles that we know create success for our clients, all within one elegant training format. If you happen to be new to the channel, then I'm Marcus Philly and I coach functional bodybuilding. The functional bodybuilding method strives to help athletes look good and move well. We place an equal emphasis on training philosophies that help you achieve the body of your dreams, that can move with the abilities that are your birthright. That's right, those movement capabilities to squat, bend, flex, twist, jump, throw, and crash that we all possessed as young children and lost along the way. For 24 years, I've been training in and outside of gyms. I've exposed myself to countless training methods and learned from just about as many coaches along the way. What I've gathered along the way is training formats that support the look good, move well mission. If a method is heavily biased towards looking good through hypertrophy methods and fat loss focus, then I make a point to use my knowledge around movement quality and joint and tissue health to upgrade the method to allow it to balance our athletes. So today I want to take you through a look good, move well, lower body training format that is potent for building muscles and equally effective at improving movement quality and athleticism. If you follow along with this workout later this week, you will lift something heavy, lift something to your pain-free full range of motion, explore unilateral strength and balance. You'll move with speed, jump, and be athletic. And finally, you'll isolate a muscle group to get a local muscle pump. So let me break down what this workout looks like for you. In total, you're gonna be completing 5 sets. You're gonna start a new set every 6 minutes. So 5 sets every 6 minutes. This is gonna take you 30 minutes to get through. The first movement that you'll perform is a 1 1/4 cyclist front squat for 5 reps. Then you'll take about a 30-second rest period and you'll move on to movement number 2. That's called a Goblet Cossack squat for 6 reps per leg, and we're gonna pause on every single rep. Another 30-second rest, and you're moving on to movement number 3. That's the Dumbbell Burpee for 8 reps, and you're gonna perform that with some speed. After another 30-second rest, we're moving on to our final and 4th exercise, and that is a traditional leg extension for 16 reps. At the conclusion of your last rep of leg extensions, you'll check the clock, and however long you have until the next 6-minute mark is how long you're going to rest in between sets. That should be in the 2-minute range, give or take 10 to 15 seconds, depending on how quickly you finished each of your exercises in this compounding set. Now I want to provide you with some coach notes, a breakdown of why I chose what I chose to build this workout format for you, and so that it fits the look good, move well philosophy. See, every choice in our programs is very intentional, from the order of exercises to the length of the rest periods and the exercise selections themselves. To begin with, the timing format. I love the consistency of these time formats every 6 minutes or every 4 minutes. It helps you stay on point with your rest periods, and you can plan very easily for how long things are going to take you in the gym. When you begin your training sets, you know exactly how long the workout is going to take, and it allows you to remain, once again, very focused on the task at hand. How many of you have lost focus in the gym, spent more time than you thought you were going to spend, and as a result, were much less efficient and effective with your training? The timing also focuses on rest periods. The intra-set or between exercise rest periods are very short, just enough time to give you a chance to transition between exercises. Furthermore, these short rest periods means that movements are going to build on top of each other and create what we'll call cumulative fatigue. Meanwhile, the interset rest periods between chunks of exercises, they should be longer. They should be able to allow you to fully recover so you can come back for another compounding set of high intensity. The second principle you got here is starting from compound and toughest and then moving to lighter and speed-focused or more isolated movements. The idea is that when you're most fresh, you want to stack the toughest exercises. So at the beginning of your compounding set, you're doing these heavy front squats. Then when you start to fatigue, you'll want to move to easier movements or exercises that are going to allow you to stay focused even when you're tired. So squatting relatively heavy, as I said, should come first, then moving to a difficult single leg exercise like the Cossack squat is next, followed by a moderate weight fast movement like the dumbbell burpee, and then of course finishing with a very isolated exercise like the leg extension. Why did I choose Cyclist 1 1/4 squats? These are also known as teardrop squats. VMO, vastus medialis, dominant squat positions. When you place a slant board underneath your feet to do squats, aka a cyclist squat, it allows us to get into a very deep knee flexion. That deep knee flexion position will bias that teardrop muscle on the inner portion of your quadricep. Furthermore, the vertical positioning that this allows you to take in the front squat makes it a much more leg focused, which is the focus of today, or quad focused, than it is hips and glute focused. In this first movement, I want you grabbing loading that is very challenging for you. The 1 1/4 range of motion is also going to help with overloading the quads because you're going to be coming up a quarter of the way on every single rep and then returning to a full depth squat, which is going to put that extra strain on the quads each repetition. Now, for those of you who love this concept of functional bodybuilding, but you want to leverage some of the other tools that you have access to, hey, what about using a machine? I would encourage you to maybe substitute out a leg press for this front squat if one, you're either not that comfortable front squatting, or two, you just love to use machines in your training as well. A 1 1/4 leg press can be a perfect substitution. Okay, how about the Cossack squat? Why are we using that? I love the Cossack squat because it's where flexibility meets strength. The Look Good, Move Well philosophy prioritizes being strong, looking good, and also having great range of motion. And pause Cossack squats work great for building positional strength. We can't overlook unilateral work to balance both sides of our body in training. If you train two-legged movements all the time, you may have some underlying strength deficits on one side that go unnoticed forever, or at least until they create a problem in your training, such as an injury or a strength plateau. The last thing I love about Cossack squats comes down to the plane of motion that you're working in. So rarely are we doing movements that kind of push our bodies side to side or in the frontal plane. And I think the Cossack squat is a great tool to get us working in this direction, keep our athleticism, keep our mind-muscle connections working, and help us learn new skills. Then there's the dumbbell burpee. Why are we doing that? Well, athleticism in our training keeps our brain developing. Something like a burpee is very full body. But this particular version with dumbbells does bias a bit more of the legs, and it's just an exercise to get us moving fast, which again keeps athleticism into our repertoire. As I alluded to, the position of this particular variation of the burpee, when you jump your feet forward, it should land you in a quarter squat. So you're going to be performing these quarter squats with dumbbells at your side, again, targeting more leg drive, which is the theme of this compounding set. I also just love including some power and energy system work inside of these resistance training intervals. It helps us bring overall fitness balance and variety to the training. Lastly, a leg extension. Why a leg extension? Well, if you've followed the coaching points up until this stage in the compounding set, your legs are pretty cooked. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna move into an isolation exercise that's not gonna demand too much of your brain and your entire body. That's gonna allow you to isolate and burn out the focus muscle group, which is the legs. If you don't have access to a leg extension machine, I'm showing you this banded alternative For those of you who want to keep an isolation exercise at the end of this compounding set, but again, you can't get access to a multi-$1,000 leg extension machine. Now, one of the challenges with doing compounding sets like this is that, hey, Marcus, man, that takes up all this equipment. I've got to have this, I got to have that, I got to use 3 different stations, and I just can't do that in my gym. Well, I have solutions for that as well. One set of dumbbells and a band, and you can do this entire workout. So instead of a barbell front squat or a leg press, why don't you just grab that set of dumbbells that nobody's using on the rack and do your suitcase cyclist squats with that. Then you can use that same dumbbell and do your Cossack squats, and of course the same dumbbells and do your dumbbell burpees. And then again, you don't have to go to the leg extension machine. You can take that jump stretch resistance band that you have, put your feet up on a bench, and perform the leg extensions that I've shown you. And maybe you're on the other side of the coin. I've got access to all the tools, and I really want to use everything. I don't really want to use the dumbbells. Well, then you have access to different tools that you can plug in to each of these movements within this training format. Now remember the intention of each of these movements. The Cossack squat was all about building big range of motion unilaterally. So if you've got access to a leg press machine and you want to do a single leg press that allows you to get deep range of motion, go for it. The take-home point when it comes to exchanging movements in is that you want to be thinking about replacing likes with likes. If it's said to do a heavy, challenging cyclist front squat, and you decide to go do a very lightweight, high rep movement that doesn't mimic the pattern, you're not really accessing what we're after here in this training format. Hey, my hope is that this functional muscle breakdown was useful for you. Be sure to grab a copy of the workout in the description below and head into the gym this week and give it a shot. I'm confident that even if you don't have all the gear that you saw me use today, you can use a couple of modifications and adjustments that I've included, and you can have a kick-ass leg workout. There's a lot of training methods out there in the world that can get you results. I'm a firm believer that the simultaneous pursuit of form, how you look, and function, how you move, like we aspire to with our Look Good, Move Well philosophy, that is the ticket to a lifetime of feeling, looking, and performing your best. If you found some value from this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and like it. Also, drop a comment below on what you think about compounding sets. Have you ever used them before? Is this a new concept to you? What challenges do you see that you might be facing? And what questions you have about the methodology? I'm happy to answer it. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to hit that subscribe button, help grow our channel, spread the message, and I will see you next time. Hey, functional bodybuilders. I am back with part 2 of this functional muscle series, and today we're going to be looking at another training format that we love at Functional Bodybuilding. Previously, we covered compounding sets, and if you haven't checked out that leg day training video, be sure to head over there after you finish up with this one. If you're new to the channel, then welcome. But if you haven't heard of me or my functional bodybuilding approach to training, then let me explain a little bit. See, my approach aims to balance the world of building muscle and maintaining or enhancing your human functionality. I've gone in depth into what that means in a separate video, but suffice it to say, I don't believe in sacrificing aesthetics for function and vice versa. I believe you should follow a training plan that lets you look good and move well. Your body is capable of so much physically, and your training should allow you to do as much physically in your life that you want to. We can have the body of our dreams and move like athletes for our entire lives. Today's training format is called mixed modal increasing effort. Mixed modal refers to the fact that we're using different training modalities all within a single workout format. We've got weight training today, we've got body weight movements, and we've got cardio machines all wrapped together with a nice pretty bow. Before we dive into the workout specifics, let me talk a little bit about an FBB training philosophy. We very much focus our training on movement patterns rather than body parts. When I put together training for functional bodybuilding, I almost always look through the lens of movement patterns rather than body parts. Generally speaking, if we perform exercises that all follow the same movement pattern, for example, hip hinging, then we'll tend to cover the same muscle groups in every single exercise. If you think of those same 3 to 4 exercises that all hit the same movement pattern, they each might have slightly different stimulus to the muscle groups that are being included. That slightly different stimulus from each movement is going to help ensure that we round out our strength and aesthetics for that given group of muscles. The place where body part focus does come into play is after first identifying the movement pattern that we want to hit. So if hip extension or hinging is what we're doing for the day, then glutes, hips, and hamstrings will all come into play. To balance out a training session or a training format like the one I'll show you today, I might want to get into some specific attention on a particular muscle group that was not well featured in the other movements of the day. So in that instance, I might pick an isolation exercise for the hamstrings or the hip abductors. Body part isolation exercises can be a helpful tool to add to a workout if the other movements are very challenging and involve many muscles all at once. By nature, these big compound exercises are going to be extremely demanding, and an isolation movement could be a great way to bring down the intensity and allow you to get in some more training volume without completely wrecking yourself for the days to come. Okay, now that we've covered the concept of movement pattern focused versus body part pattern focused, let's take a walk through the training format for today so you can visually see what it's going to consist of. Today we're going to be completing 5 total sets, and we're going to be performing them with increasing effort. And I'll explain what that means as we go. Roughly, this should take you about 30 minutes to complete this session. The first exercise is going to be a barbell hip thrust, and you're going to complete that for 8 repetitions. You're going to pause at the bottom of every single rep, and you're going to try and lower under control to that bottom position. When I mentioned and alluded to increasing effort, you're going to be increasing the load on every single set of barbell hip thrusts from the beginning to the end, so 5 weight increases. You get a 15-second rest after your hip thrust, and now you're going into a single leg back extension. Alternatively, if you don't have a back extension machine like this, you can be performing a kettlebell or a dumbbell hamstring march. We're going to be aiming for 8 repetitions per leg on either exercise. You're going to rest for 15 seconds after your single leg back extension, and now you're going to go into an alternating dumbbell snatch. If you're not very familiar with dumbbell snatching and you prefer to do a swing, you can perform a dual Russian kettlebell swing to go along with your kettlebell hamstring march. For this, we're going to hit 16 reps. As we move through these increasing effort sets, on this exercise, I want you to be thinking of increasing your turnover time. So the speed at which you're performing your repetitions, whether that be swings or whether that be alternating dumbbell snatches, I want the speed to increase with every single set. You're going to get another 15-second rest after you complete your dumbbell snatches, and now you're jumping on the rower. Or if you have access to a runner like this curved runner that we have at the gym, you can use that as well. I like both of these machines as they complement the movement pattern that we're using today, and they're very glute, hamstring, and hinging dominant. And just like the first and the third exercise, we're going to also be increasing our effort here. On the first set, you're going to intentionally dial back your 20-second sprint, and then on each subsequent set, I want you to push your pace as hard as you can, such that every set you get faster and faster and faster all the way through your 5th set. Those 4 movements make up the entire set, and once you complete all 4 movements with the 15-second rests in between, you're going to get a 2 to 3 minute rest before you repeat the entire thing from the top. Now I want to provide you some coaching notes, what to pay attention to, where to put your focus, and what training principles that we're leveraging to get the most bang for our buck with this training format. The first point is metabolic stress. Short rest periods between exercises that follow these similar movement patterns is going to lead to local muscle metabolic stress. You start to burn up your energy sources really quickly. So the muscle tissue is now going to have to work hard to replenish energy. And in that process, you're going to get metabolic waste products that create that local metabolic stress inside the muscle. This is what you might experience as a burn in the muscle. Now, the burn and this stress alone shouldn't always be your goal, but it still has a powerful impact that we're leveraging here. The second concept is this increasing effort concept. The way I like to think about that is that we use the first set or two to pre-fatigue the muscle tissue. We're starting intentionally lighter and slower with these sets up front so that we pre-fatigue the movement pattern. It's sort of like a warm-up set that primes the muscles with nourishment and with blood. You start to get a little fatigue in the muscles early, and then when the heavier and faster sets hit later on, you'll have to work that much harder on slightly tired legs, slightly tired glutes, and hamstrings. We're also leveraging overload. We picked an exercise at the beginning, and it was intentional because this movement is one that most people are very strong in, the hip thrust. We're using a machine to perform this, but if you don't have a machine like this, you can easily perform a barbell hip thrust on a bench with any bar that you have access to. Now with this overload exercise up front, I'm expecting you to use heavy weight, even on the beginning sets, and then work your way up from there. Heavy movements on the front end of these sets with lighter movements at the end creates this sort of cascade of difficulty where you start really hard and then you get easier as you go, which allows you to keep pushing yourself well into the set even when you're tired. Another important principle we always use in FBB is unilateral training. See, great function in your body means being able to use your right and your left sides evenly and with similar strength. If you don't have both sides of your body getting individual attention, then you will end up with imbalances. So we mixed in the unilateral work purposefully, the hamstring march or the single leg back extension. We do this in almost every one of our training formats for functional bodybuilding. Another principle we love that's showing up here is the combination of body weight and weighted movements. Knowing how to move your own body weight as well as moving an external load, this is a key principle to the FBB method. The mind-muscle connections that go into moving your own body weight versus moving external load are slightly different. And I think it's important over time with the training formats that you choose that you put an emphasis on training both. Next up is contraction speed. Are you lifting things slowly or are you lifting things fast? Fast movement versus slow movement, they're both valuable. Slower and controlled can help you improve the quality of your technique, your movement, and build better mind-muscle connections. Also, slow movement will increase the time that your muscles are under tension. Meanwhile, if you have fast movement, that's going to create an entirely different type of stimulus on the muscle. Fast movement can put greater tension on the muscles. It can help maintain and build quick twitch muscle fibers, which are there for you in life for more athletic endeavors and maneuvers that you want to perform. So in this particular example, we start off with more slow and controlled, and then in the last two exercises with the dumbbell snatch and the row sprint, we're moving to fast contractions, a combination of slow and fast in the same movement pattern. Okay, and one last principle, high turnover cardio. If you pick the right cardio tool that matches the movement pattern that you're training, it becomes a wonderful complement to the resistance training work that you're doing. I find that finishing with a hard effort on a cardio tool allows me to maximally tap into whatever remaining muscles I haven't already tapped from the other previous 2 to 3 exercises. There's also something about driving a little cardiovascular stress during a workout that makes me feel that much more accomplished. You can't overlook the power of your mental state in training and feeling like you've done some hard work. I hope that walkthrough of this particular training format, mixed modal increasing effort, was helpful, and it was useful for you to see and understand the why behind the training prescription. I make sure that each and every session that I program is thoughtful down to every last detail. How you do anything is how you do everything. Be mindful about the choices that you make in the gym. Does this serve the purpose of making you look better and build the body that you want? Does this workout serve the purpose of helping my body be stronger, have more balance, be able to take on any task that life throws at me? And lastly, does this training format bring me joy? And is it fun? When and only when I can answer yes to all 3 of those questions is the workout actually ready to go. And I said this in part 1 of this series, and I'll say it again. There are a lot of training methods out there in the world that can get you results. Truly effective ones are gonna help you get results and keep them for a long time. I strongly encourage you to pursue both form, how you look, and function, how you move. If you spend too much time chasing one and not the other, you might wind up with some of those short-term results and not the long-term ones that you deeply desire. So get involved in the Look Good, Move Well philosophy and come give this workout a try. Grab a written copy of the workout down below in the description. If you got some value from this video or you learned something new, or you're gonna go give this workout a try, then please give me a thumbs up like, and make sure you comment below on what you took away from this or what questions you have about the functional bodybuilding method and how we can build functional muscle. And last but not least, please subscribe to the channel if you want to not miss out on future content that I'll be delivering week after week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. What can you change about your training today? What can you do to avoid burnout and setbacks that come with short-sighted focus on quick results? Well, you can start to embrace these key functional bodybuilding philosophies in your training.
In today's episode, I teach you how to build wings.
Welcome back to another episode of Building Functional Muscle. I'm Marcus Philly, Functional Bodybuilding, and in part 3 of this series today, we are going to be hitting a back workout. That's right. Build the lats, build the upper back, build the traps, make the back of your upper body pop and strong. To hit the upper body with a back focus, I am going to be reviewing yet another functional bodybuilding training format that we love right here. Hey, if you're new to the channel, functional bodybuilding, that is all of the methods that I have brought together from my 20 years of training experience that places equal emphasis on looking good and moving well. Back in my early 20s, I played the look good game for years. Then, in my later 20s and into my 30s, I transitioned to playing the performance game in something called CrossFit. And now, in my mid to late 30s, approaching my 40s, I truly care about both. What I'm striving for these days is to find training solutions that combine look good and move well, so it allows those of you who love training as much as I do to keep it as part of your life for decades to come. Just about everyone I know that comes to the gym wants to look better and be stronger. The problem is that many people pursue those two goals at the expense of their long-term physical health. What gets them results this month, it doesn't necessarily set them up for long-term success. Your body starts to look better, you start leaning out, muscle starts to pack on, strength numbers go up, and then bam, setback, injury, burnout, plateau. Now, without a doubt, diet and recovery practices are going to play an important role in whether or not your body breaks down or if it builds back up, or whether your progress is long-term or short-term. I'll save that for another video, but for now, I'd like to review a few training philosophies here at Functional Bodybuilding that can have a potent impact on long-term success. Number 1, always emphasize full range of motion. Charles Poliquin was famous for quoting, "Strength is gained in the range that it is trained." It is okay to train the mid-range strength of a muscle frequently. That's where we're gonna be strongest and where we can lift the biggest weights. That might be advantageous to get a strong stimulus for muscle growth and metabolic activity in the body. But don't neglect also training end range of motion too. You have to make sure that those end ranges are strong so that you remain mobile and resilient to life and training injuries. Number 2 philosophy point, use strength balance principles. What does that mean? The front and the back of your joints both need equal love. If you train to press 5 days a week and then you train pull 1 day a week, then the math is leading you towards a problem. This imbalance will surface soon enough as an injury or a plateau. So start making sure that you're balancing your major movement patterns as well as your joints weekly and in every training cycle that you do. Push and pull, squat and hinge, external and internally rotate, and flex and extend. Philosophy point number 3, work your unilateral strength. Each of us have underlying imbalances in our body that are the result of a chaotic life. You won't know what they are until you start to explore training one side of your body at a time. Start immediately including more unilateral work in your strength training. Philosophy point number 4, stop neglecting your cardio and your work capacity. I see far too often that fitness coaches are encouraging people to do less cardio in order to grow muscle. Cardio is going to ruin your gains. In my opinion, this advice sucks. I get the origins. Someone doing countless hours on the treadmill can't figure out why they're not gaining muscle. Well, it's hard to consume enough calories to get that person into an adequate surplus that they need to build muscle mass. So a coach says, cut back on their cardio and magically they build some muscle. The problem is that most people out there are not overdoing their cardio. In fact, most people don't do enough in my opinion. So what happens instead is you have a group of inactive people being told that the only way to get into shape is to lift weights and not do cardio. I'll repeat myself, this advice sucks. You should be doing both. Just make sure that you're doing it thoughtfully so that you can still grow muscle. With better work capacity / cardio, you'll be able to push yourself harder in the gym, recover faster, utilize the energy that you eat far better, and have greater flexibility with your diet than without it. Okay, to drive these points home, I'm going to show you a 30-minute workout from start to finish that incorporates these FBB philosophies. Today's functional muscle training format is called aerobic movement redundancy. You'll be performing a 20-minute work capacity session with 4 exercises in a circuit, and all of them are going to tax similar muscle groups and movement patterns. And since today is back day, we are going to hammer the back. After those 20 minutes are up, we will wrap up with some strength balance work to ensure that we keep our shoulders healthy and ready to come back and train hard again later in the week. Remember, consistency and effort are both key ingredients to long-term success. So let me review the workout from start to finish, and then I'll break down some of the why behind the workout choices that I made. In this first section, you'll be completing, like I said, a 20-minute work capacity set. This is continuous movement, and you should be moving at a 75 to 85% effort of your maximal capacity. You'll begin with 5 strict pull-ups. I'm performing them weighted, and the goal is to find a challenging weight or body weight for 5 reps. I'm also performing them with omni grip, meaning I'm changing my grip with every single set. After the 5 pull-ups, you'll move directly into 10 gorilla rows. These are supposed to be heavy, and you're gonna only perform 5 per arm, 10 total reps. Following your gorilla rows, get onto the rowing machine. You'll perform 15 calories for men, 12 calories for women. After you get off your rowing machine, you're gonna perform 20 banded pull-aparts. These can be done with palms up or with palms down. At the conclusion of your band pull-aparts, it's back to the pull-up bar for another set of 5 strict pull-ups. You'll continue this order and this cycle for a full 20 minutes. The goal is to complete as much work as you can in the 20 minutes while maintaining that 75 to 85% effort zone and keeping the quality of your movement and range of motion of highest quality. At the conclusion of your 20 minutes, we're gonna move on to our finisher. You'll need about 1 to 2 minutes to recover, and then we're diving right into a shoulder and scapular health finisher superset. There's 2 movements that you're gonna perform back to back, and you'll perform 2 sets of each to failure. You're gonna take a light weight and perform dumbbell external rotation, slow and controlled on each arm. Then find a band or a cable machine and perform throat pulls, where you pull the cable to your throat at a light or moderate weight, again, slow and controlled, till you reach failure. Now let me review some of the why behind these exercise and movement selection choices. Work capacity. Well, unlike other work capacity or conditioning workouts in the 20-minute range, the value of doing movement redundancy like this is that it will indirectly control your pace. Look Good, Move Well philosophy point number 4 says that we need to value capacity and cardio. This format brings cardio into the muscle building training format without making it the star. Your pace will be controlled by the muscle fatigue that you will experience. Furthermore, the transition between the various movements is also going to help control your heart rate and keep it in check. I really like leveraging some metabolic fatigue and stress in muscle building workouts. See, having years of CrossFit experience has taught me that some metabolic stress can be a powerful stimulus for muscle growth. So long as it isn't so much metabolic stress that your movement quality suffers and you start to get sloppy with your reps, it can be highly valuable in a muscle building format like this. This training format is also about equal time split on the cardio tool and the resistance training movements. Therefore, it isn't too heavily biased on one or the other. Throughout this session today, for 30 minutes, we are focusing a lot on full range of motion. Pull-ups, we're going all the way to full lockout at the bottom, and we're trying to get our chin well over the bar with each rep, sometimes even getting the chest as close to the pull-up bar as possible. On the gorilla rows, there is a bit of rotation happening on each and every rep. This is to ensure that we're getting a full contraction of the lat and the shoulder on each rep. And lastly, in our strength balance superset, we're doing cable throat pulls and dumbbell external rotation to a very full range of motion to work on bulletproofing these joints and making them more resilient for future training and longevity. How about unilateral strength? Well, we're covering this in the work capacity portion by incorporating gorilla rows. Furthermore, we covered this in the finisher with scap and shoulder work using dumbbell external rotations, which are a unilateral exercise. And of course, strength balance principles are at play here throughout this workout. Making sure that a joint is trained in all planes and all directions. We've got vertical pulling with pull-ups, we've got horizontal pulling, and we've got straight and bent arm pulling happening all in the same training session. Not to mention that pulling, like a pull-up, is a powerful internal rotator of the humerus, and we're doing an external rotation exercise in our strength balance finisher. Hey, I hope that breakdown of the workout and the training format was useful for you to see. I don't explain all this stuff to flex knowledge or to make it seem like it's more than it actually is. I just want you to recognize that there's a lot of thoughtfulness and intention that goes into the functional bodybuilding training design. Look, at the end of the day, I want you to be able to show up and give full effort in your workouts and trust that somebody, and in this case me, is checking the box on what recipe needs to be in place for you to do this consistently. See, the recipe for long-term success in fitness is pretty simple. Come and give effort, do it consistently over time, follow these philosophies from functional bodybuilding, and you can do that too. I believe deeply that the Look Good, Move Well philosophy is perhaps the most effective way to accomplish this, because we constantly look at our training through the lens of, will this allow me to keep giving effort for the long term? As opposed to, will this get me results fast? I believe we will have far more success with our athletes if we follow that path rather than the quick results path that so many of you have fallen victim to. No amount of results that you used to have will ever feel as good as the results that you have today. So if you want more lessons on how to look good and move well for life, then please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Drop me a like and a comment so that we can push this message to more and more people. I greatly appreciate your time, your attention. Now, get in the gym and go give some effort. I'll see you next time.